I was wondering if I might trouble you for a cup of strong black coffee, and in the process engage you with an anecdote of no small amusement.
Hello, and welcome to another episode here at Nerd Herder, where Boop is surprised. I'm Sheriff Truman, this is Agent Cooper, and back here is our child, Deputy Andy. Welcome to the show. We are here to have a good time.
Was there any point to that?
No.
So you asked me like 30 minutes ago.
Yes.
So the sad,
No, it's the simple.
He's
not
not
sad.
Simple. He's emotional.
What do you think simple means in this context?
Like a southern symbol.
No. I mean that scene where he whacks himself with a piece of wood and walks it off.
Yes.
I'm talking about like
he found the boots.
Yes. Oh, okay.
He found the weed boots.
Everyone should watch Twin Peaks. We're doing all of this for Alden's sake. But there you go. Watch Twin Peaks. I watched an interview with Kyle McLaughlin earlier, and I was just in a Twin Peaks mood. I was last week going to do one, but I forgot about it. I was going to do what is it? I can't remember, but you were going to be Chuck Winnebanger. There's newscasters from the Ratchet and Clank games.
Yes.
And so I don't know. I
am Philip Jeffries.
For everyone, this is 2022. We've been doing this for 4 years. Let's peek behind the curtain, okay?
We live in a dream.
Who
do you think that is?
To let you know what happens when this show starts, I put on the music after we've spent like 30 minutes hanging out with our guests, and I forget that there's a show after the music.
Listen, who cares?
So everything that happens after that is not planned. The only thing planned is that today, here and now, we are going to talk about the finale, the climax, the big end of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That's right, Return of the King. We're here to finish it out. We've been talking about this for the last few weeks now.
Yes, we have.
It's strange because we started this year with a series talking through the Batman movies, and it felt like that took forever in a good way.
That was this year?
That was this year. And now here we are with Lord of the Rings, something I've been looking forward to. I was very excited to talk about. It's equivalent to my first time seeing these movies, and I just wanted to talk about it.
Consciously seeing these movies.
It's flying by. We're already at the end.
Next week, or no, not even. The week after next is 2023.
The week after next.
My point stands.
I think
time is a flat circle. Who cares?
Without further ado, let's begin the end.
It's done. Yes, Mr. Frodo. It's over now.
Wow. Who's gonna hug me?
And we're done. Good job, guys. Good job. No.
Spoiler alert.
Great to have you on the podcast. Good night.
All right, guys. Later.
Sadly, Frodo lives. Yes. Spoiler alert.
What is your beef?
Real quick. Good night, Jerry and Elle. Thank you for.
Good night, Jerry.
Love you,
Bye, Jerry.
We all love you. And so we've been talking through the Lord of the Rings. We have done Fellowship. We had a heck of a time where I proved I don't know as much as I thought I knew about this silly little universe.
It was incredible, though, watching you learn new things.
I think I said it last week. I've never felt more like a scrub in the Star Wars fandom than I did talking about Lord of the Rings that first week.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But that said, this is all new. I'm discovering this world of high fantasy and everything. So starting off with you guys for the same thing we've asked the last 2 weeks, but where did your love of Lord of the Rings start? Because you were either easy picks or suggested for your love of Lord of the Rings and this in particular, Return of the King. And so starting off with newest member of the herd.
That's me.
Nicky.
the latest guest to question their life choices. Nicky,
I don't think it's the first time Nicky has questioned his life choices.
We're
Sure won't
used
be
to it
the
by
last.
now.
It's not the first
Yeah.
time today. It's
Yeah.
like it's
it's just like, oh, this is
Absolutely.
not the way. No.
Go
Anyway,
ahead, buddy.
your love of Lord of the Rings, where'd that come from?
Where did it begin? It began, I'm gonna say, it began with a Burger King kids meal when
Nice.
they were handing out the little plastic fellowship that would come that you could then piece together with every if you got them all. And the first one I got was Strider, which was very cool. And I was like, oh, this guy looks like Jesus. And
This is my new god.
yeah, I pray to you now. And then I got some cat called Gimli. So I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then it began for real in a theater.
And then you had the weirdest
Yeah.
nativity scene ever.
yeah.
No, they were
For
dwarves
sure.
with the
Little
painter.
Gollum was the baby. But yeah, no, it began in earnest in a theater in 2001, late December. And I think the best way I can always describe my experience with the Fellowship of the Ring is it's how it sounds when a lot of the like original generation of Star Wars fans talk about when they went to see Star Wars for the first time in a theater. And like, so for me, like Fellowship of the Ring was like, I lost track of space and time. I was like, I remember being surprised when it ended. I was like, what are we doing? We still gotta get to Mordor.
Awesome.
So like, I just, and considering I was 9 and I had no idea 3 hours had just passed by, like it was a pretty special.
That's a good movie
time.
right there.
Yeah. So it really began there, and then it avalanched, and it became the most important thing in the world.
As it do.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's just been an epic journey since 2001 with everything Tolkien that I've discovered since then, and I'm glad it's able to continue with the Rings of Power. So
Yeah, 20 years later.
it's just a fun time. It's a fun time to even now think back on it all and just continue to keep exploring it.
So I'm curious, like, was it you got this cool toy and you needed to know more, or was it like getting this cool toy fulfilling, like, oh, I saw this movie, it was magical? What came first?
Yeah, I guess it was I think I'd seen the trailers. I think
Okay.
was probably the first thing. So I saw the trailer and was like, oh, this kind of looks like that guy from the trailer doing the cool, like jumping on like stairs that are crumbling. That's cool. So I think is like one of those things where, yeah, I was like sort of, prepared. I was susceptible to its sorcery, right? Like, I was ready to be in on it.
Sure.
So I think, yeah, it just became one of these things where it's like, oh, I will probably like this. I think a relative was like, oh, you should go see it. It's good. You'll like it. So yeah, I think it was more, I don't know if the toy like was the thing that I was like, that like motivated me to go see it. But it was like sort of a fun thing to understand it and be like, oh, this is also my favorite character.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Rad.
And that with Transformers.
Also, I mean, yeah, actually, like there is something sometimes where it's like getting it in your hands and then it's just like, oh, I get it now.
You handed me
that
a Starscream, and I was like, look at this twink.
that
More, please.
yes, that's a joke for Chris Ryans and very few others, but yeah, like that's back also when Burger King toys used to slap. Because like
You ain't
The
joking.
best.
oh my
The best.
gosh, I remember I was a kid on a mission trying to get in 2005 all of the episode 3 ones. Like the really weird deformed ones they did with the big heads and everything.
Remember the
Oh my gosh.
Forgot
have
about
you-
those.
Yeah. Well, and then like I think McDonald's had the Inspector Gadget one where it was like
Yes.
kind of like the
Yes.
Fellowship where it's like get the different parts of the
I think that's right, yeah.
Inspector. Oh my gosh.
I
What a
think we
time.
need to track the descent of society with the descent of Burger
Right. When
King.
did we stop selling cool toys? At
Yeah,
fast
like
food?
it's like Burger King has, in my opinion,
No, you got a fair point.
not the same levels anymore on a
No.
whole
Oh, no.
on the whole scale.
No.
So it's
No.
like I think there's a video essay in there somewhere.
Oh,
about,
absolutely. My
about,
first
you know,
Dragon Ball
how-
Z toy came from Burger King.
Yeah, get on that tapestry on that video essay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Give us a thread, Alden. But first, why don't you share about your beginnings with the world of Tolkien, sir?
Yeah, it's interesting because this film that we're discussing tonight was my entry point, even though it was the ending, because
Interesting.
I am 8. I recently turned 8 when this movie came out.
You look great.
Thank you. I'm 8 now. It just
Benjamin Button over here.
I am
Benjamin Baggins, I should say.
slowly figuring out how to,
You
carry
just
the
passed me.
wine and everything.
It's written
so-
in crayon, says I'm 12.
Yep, 100%, 100%. And so I remember Lord of the Rings existing because you're already, like many of us nerds were already going to the theater to see like Harry Potter, or Raimi Spider-Man, or some of us like things like Shrek or the Tim
Saw it 3
Burton
times.
Planet of the Apes, or like
Cinema.
so like I've been to the movies and I've loved movies already as a child, and my VHS collection, I was burning out the same rotation of things. But Lord of the Rings, my perception was like, oh, that's my thing. That's the thing my uncle likes. Like that's like the nerd thing that is like more complicated. And so I didn't see Fellowship or Towers in theaters because I was little. Attack of the Clones is 2002. So I see that, but no one takes me to see Fellowship in 2002. And then late, probably late November-ish, like before this movie comes out, but like it's about to ramping up. My mom was working with a woman at the time that became like her best friend, and her name was Mary Ann. And my mom's easy.
No, shout out Mary Ann.
Easy. Whoa, we got Mary Ann fans rushing the stage.
He doesn't like ladies with 2 names.
I know. And so like I was a child, so I don't know how it came up for them, but my mom does not give 1 iota of an F about nerd stuff. She very rarely will she watch anything that could be considered genre or nerdy. But at some point, her at the time best friend was, I think, mentioned to her like, oh, I'm going to see Lord of the Rings. But she was unmarried, had no children, like didn't have anyone to go with. She wasn't from this area. And so she was like, do you think that your kids would want to go? And my sister was older and didn't care. And so my mom's best friend took me to see Return of the King. And so so I go and I'm sitting there, and I've told the story in other shows, and I know Nicky's heard it, and we just rewatched it together. So I reiterated it again. I associate this movie with feeling like the first time that I watched an adult motion picture. Like I feel like I'd seen movies before this, but this is the first time I saw a film. This is the first time I saw a motion picture, like cinema. Yeah. And yeah,
You were just
100%.
itching for Twitter to start so you could do a thread. Yeah.
I predicted it. Yeah. I willed it into being. It just took years. But I also associate this with the first time I overcame fear that spun out of fiction. The opening with Smeagol, Deagle, and the Gollum transformation scared me so much that I tapped this woman and whispered, like, can we go? I didn't want to stay. I was terrified. I was like freaking out like a little kid does when like they don't want to go into the haunted house, or when they're afraid of, whatever it is. And she said, if you're still scared in 5 to 10 minutes, we can leave. But trust me, it's okay. Like it's going to be fun. And then a blur happened. And then at the end of that blur, I'm watching the Battle of Pelennor Fields. And I just remember, I don't think I've ever felt, everything's bigger in your childhood mind's eye. So it's like, it was probably not like some great theater. It was a standard size screen. Like as an adult, I can go back and contextualize it. I know what theater it was. It ain't that great, but in
memory, it was grand.
Yes, there is not a memory in my life where I felt probably the Battle of Geonosis is like right there, like the Jedi charging the droids. But
Okay.
that ending, not even ending, because there's still an hour
There's
left in the
several
movie
endings,
after that.
yeah.
But that everything from Rohan showing up at the battle to credits felt like I was never tinier. Like I thought that
Yeah.
like the world was different. Coming out of that, I thought everything was different. Then I got the 2003 Hobbit game, which is not canon to the Jackson stuff. It's just an adaptation of the Hobbit on GameCube. Return of the King game. Then I wanted the figures. I had an Aragorn figure, I had a Gollum figure, and I think I had a Bilbo Baggins, one of the Ian Holm Bilbos, and I was just immediately like, what is this world? And my mom's brother is like a Tolkien head, like his whole entire life, like an expert, like dude speaks Elvish, like really hardcore.
Nice.
And I would just throw questions out, like what is that sword called? What is this place? What does that mean? What is this? And it also had an air of inaccessibility, which I think made it attractive to a lot of us, because it wasn't like with Star Wars, it's like, oh, we had DK doing like, the reference guides and the visual dictionaries and stuff, and that didn't exist for Rings. Like, it's not like there was nothing, but there was no there was no Tartakovsky Lord of the Rings.
There weren't as many entry points.
Yeah,
I wish there was, 'cause that sounds amazing.
It does sound amazing, but there was, it was just like you had to find out about it either by reading books that were above your reading level, if you're that age, or through adults. And so it felt like being led into like this really special thing. You can't yet. Now I relate to these characters because of theme, but back then they were larger than life. Like you can relate to Peter Parker or Harry Potter or Hermione or like Wolverine, any of those characters, but like Legolas and like these people, and he was my original favorite. He's still up there, but like as a child, I think Legolas was the coolest. And
sure.
just seeing him and just being like, I don't understand like what he wants or where he's from, but I can't stop looking. Like,
I've known him for 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. So yeah.
It's almost like that Hobbit's perspective, right? It's the perspective of all the Hobbits. It's like they're being thrust out into this wide world, and you're interacting with these larger than life people. Like, I mean, imagine being like Pippin and be like, oh, someone says he's the heir to the throne of Gondor, whatever that means,
while you're spying on a meeting. Like
exactly.
It does
What's
feel
a
that
king?
way. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. What's like they're like that. And then going back on maybe DVD, like these didn't have VHS releases, did they? I can't remember. They did. Yeah. So whatever format it was, but then going back and like then filling in Fellowship and Towers and seeing it all the way it's supposed to be seen, and getting to know them and understanding, like to your point, Kev, like Sam's whole like, this is the furthest away from home I've ever been, and then to know like where it ends, like it just felt different. Like it was and then you find out that it's the grandfather of all these other things. But yeah, it was a really, really unique experience.
Absolutely.
Sure. I think being, we talk so much about Star Wars, like and even like what you were talking about, Nicky, it's like it's that very similar Avalanche kind of experience of stepping into this new world and everything. I've not been able to like describe that as well as you when talking about like the Phantom Menace and seeing that with my mom.
It's captivating
because that was the first Star Wars in theater for me, and it was completely different than watching it back home. Watching the same three over and over. It was a whole new world, and it was one of those things where it's just like, all right, I am in. And as much as I could at home with streaming media and everything, like it still feels that way. That's amazing that it translates 20 years later through a much smaller screen, and still, like, for me, gives that zeal, that energy and that awe that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like there are things that hit different for everybody. Like what you guys are describing. The only thing that I can really have a touch point with that is because I'm wearing the sweater. The first time I sat in front of a dark room sat in front of the TV with my brother and playing Ocarina of Time for the first time. From the moment the fairy fountain music kicks in on the opening title, that was it.
Yeah,
and like that is, I've been in forever.
It helps that Link is like Strider, Legolas, and Frodo all in one.
Yes, I will say he does get a little bit more Pippin in the later games.
I wish Frodo would talk as much as Link does, though.
Why are you so mean?
In fairness, this is like, I'm not a Frodo hater, but if you're new, it's difficult to watch Return of the King. I think.
So there's even a supercut of Frodo in Return of the King. All the times he stumbles, falls down, or slows down.
He's tired.
Oh my gosh!
He's that's, I mean, not to like jump to the end, but that's something that Nicky and I've talked about a lot lately in terms of like different types of heroes. Is that Frodo's classic, right? He's Luke, he's Harry Potter, he's Katniss, he's the guy. Odysseus, Link. But this mother effer loses.
Exactly.
He loses. It's over. It's done. It's only circumstantially because of Samwise and Gollum that it works out.
Yes.
It's a tragedy as much as it is a victory.
Yeah. Well, and then like and then to you, Kev, not to steal it away too much, but like yes. What I would argue is one of the things that I actually liked about Frodo's journey, and honestly shows any fruit of any of this like tumultuous hero's journey, happens only in the book with Return of the King, and it happens in the last chapters where they're like wrapping up everything, and they just didn't have time for when the hobbits return to the Shire. And it's just like, this is where Frodo actually like steps up in a way, and it's not through drawing a sword or anything. Like there's so many thematic things going on there where I'm like, I think this would have helped me, because I did still end this trilogy watch with like being the biggest Samwise stan, and
as
just like it's one of those things where like I think I've said it every week now, where it's just like Frodo's not that bad. It's just that he's right next to Samwise and he's up here.
That's fair.
I think it's the point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like it's the story. The story ends with Sam getting the book, and you know, it's kind of like he does take it over.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So like so that's one of the things we haven't spent a lot of time, because of how we could almost do a whole series on what's different between book to film, and I would definitely need Kevin and Justin on that one.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't
right,
matter,
right?
You know, because they're two things. They're two things. They're two things. Like the written. The actual legendarium that J.R.R. Tolkien laid out is its thing. That is its thing. And if you can always reference back to that exists. And that material functions best being a personal experience, because nothing that gets adapted to screen is going to match what you have up here while you're actually reading this. And that's the special part of it. That's what remains special. That's why Tolkien's work has endured as long as it has, and it's past these generations. When it comes to these adaptations, they have to be their own entity. They have to draw inspiration from it, and they have to understand the themes. And to that end, every adaptation, I think, has accomplished that, but they have to be their own entity. They can't be completely anchored to this. Like, I mean, the idea of a 1v1 interpretation of Lord of the Rings, if they were to reboot it and do exactly what's on the page on film, it'd kind of be boring. And it would take 90 days to finish one film.
There's a reason why books are books.
Exactly.
And like you have to get down to that, to the acceptance of kill your darlings to a certain degree. Like there are people now 20, I mean, when they shot these in late 98, 99, and then into, and there are people still angry at the omission of Bombadil, or that Frodo and Sam didn't go to Osgiliath in the books, or that or the changing of how Aragorn's supposed to already have the sword, and there's all these things, but it's like, if you're making cinema, and I think that that what this film does so well is that it might be, I don't want to throw around the word best, but Return of the Jedi is my favorite film, period. Star Wars or not. It's just my favorite movie. But I think in terms of cathartic endings, Return of the King might be the most complete. And it's something that Nicky and I talked about while rewatching it, is that the fact that it has 6 endings is a thing that has been talked about to death.
It
but
takes 40 minutes to end the movie.
You need them all. That's the thing.
Yeah, and they still cut stuff out.
Yeah, and there's still stuff out. Yeah, and we made the concerted concerted effort's the wrong phrase. We made the focused choice to rewatch the theatrical, just because it's the most seen, and the one that made us fans. But you can't not do everything that it does. It's
there's several points.
Yeah,
several points where it's oh, that's a good ending, but it's not the ending.
Exactly.
So and it hits that every time. It's that you bow to no one is a great ending, but it's not over. You have to close the loop on Frodo's journey. And that goes all the way to the end.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's something it started that way too. You start off in the Shire, you got this young hobbit, however they age, but it starts with Frodo. He's
50 something by the end of
he's
the
50 at the adventure start.
He's
but there's a big gap between,
and it's a year of a journey or something like that, right?
A little over.
I don't know how time works.
So you start out with the Hobbit. You start out with this farm boy.
He's essentially 18. For
it's that coming of age.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, but then the fellowship slowly builds, and you realize that this issue isn't just that Frodo has the ring. This issue is how the ring affects men, elves, dwarves, and hence the fellowship. And so it's we start to build this twine of a story. It's not just a single thread. It starts to become a rope. And in the same way, at the end, it has to unravel that rope now as they all go back to their own lives. They have to
fundamentally change
to
the very core.
So not the ending, as you put it, Nicky, but the first ending where it's oh, Frodo's okay, everybody's okay, it's all great, and we're going to spend 30 seconds in slow motion celebrating.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the group ending. And then we go from there to the more individual stories. And to Kev's point, that that's the whole point, is it's just it's great to have this community joy over something, this fandom as we call it now. But at the same time, you've got your own story entwined with these things, and you have your reasons for liking what you like, and liking it the way you like it and everything. And so that's why we're super preachy on like what you like. It's really cool. We can all come together, but I'm sure if we...
You say preachy, I say aggressive.
Which some would call preachy. We could untangle exactly the way each of us individually, and we're kind of doing that with what's supposed to be the intro, of how you come to this movie. Right.
It is a very Tolkien intro. It's taking forever.
But good.
Right. A lot of talking.
Right.
I have bread and cheese in the other
This
room.
is a fine wood, not moist at all, That's a joke for last week's. But
anyway.
Yeah. We all have our own thing with Return of the King, and that's cool. And so it's just at the end of the day, like what you like, how you like it. And I think when looking at adaptations, it's the same way. It's about getting to the end result. You mentioned the sword,
fracking, man.
Alden. I actually saw someone talking about that with he shows the sword to the dead men, and it's just like, oh, this is the symbol that he can make this deal, that he can call upon our services and everything. But in the book, it's he's got like this tunic that his girlfriend made him that has the tree of Gondor that symbolizes like he's the heir, right?
Yeah.
And talking about like they do the same thing. Like they get to the same point where like the result is achieved. And so it's one of those things where it's like, if you prefer the long journey with getting him the tunic in the book, great. If you like the very quick and also
very dramatic reveal of the sword too.
Oh my gosh, I was so worried for Hugo Weaving's ears. Like when he pulled that thing out, it's just like, whoa.
But Elrond doesn't flinch because Elrond's a real one. Elrond, implicit trust. That if we're just talking about scenes, I mean, we've talked about this on air, off air. Like that moment it's Howard Shore, it's Hugo Weaving, it's the set, the Weta and the prop and the Vigo and the like that. Especially when you're older and you're thinking about what Aragorn is, and classically, like he's, I was trying to explain it to my nephew once because Lord of the Rings, again, it's big, it's dense, it's not as accessible as a lot of things. And I was telling him, I was like, he's Simba. Like, this is a guy that is running from potential. Like, this is, this is a very classic thing. When you finally get that, like, the whole Anduril, the flame of the West, and then what they're saying in Elvish, like, I give hope to men, I keep none for myself. Like, it's not like character arc over, but it's like Elrond says it, like, put aside the ranger. Like that's when that's a moment that's so relatable. That's as relatable as Uncle Ben dying or Bruce Wayne in the Batcave. Like that's a human moment in the highest fantasy.
And that was the thing. Like I was gonna say is like I relate more, or I guess I just enjoy and jive with more that scene between him and Elrod
getting a cool shirt
more than I do if I mean say like safe to say like the way that all went down like swelled up something in me more than I think the more romantic. I'm really boiling down how it happens in the book, but like more than that,
ordeal.
Well, no, and you're absolutely right because I have the same feeling around it because in the books, Aragorn is a noble person. He presents as noble. He has many moments in the books where he is acting noble, and everyone sees the potential of the future king, right? What makes Aragorn in the films more compelling is in that moment where he actually takes Anduril and he I don't see it as him like he's like, okay, I am now going to be the king. It's like I am now on the road. I have taken that first step, and it's still with trepidation. He still has doubt. He still does not know if he's up to the task, or if he's still going to fall prey to the same thing that his forebears did. But the fact that he does it anyway, he steps out anyway. That's what makes him relatable. It's like Alden said, it's a human moment.
For sure.
And that's what makes these films function. That's how they have been so enduring, is because, yes, it's taking place in the trappings of high fantasy, but it's still a very human story, and it's presented in such a human way. Like, that's what makes it so relatable. Like, I remember the last time I watched Return of the King, I cry at the same point. Every time I watch this movie, I cry at the same point because there's this. It's the moment at the Siege of Minas Tirith where it's right before the Rohirrim have shown up. Gandalf's had his staff broken by the Witch King. They're on this little level. There's a troll banging on the door, and it's just Pippin saying, like, I didn't think it would end this way. And then Gandalf has this wonderful, consoling moment where he's assuring Pippin that this is not the end. And Gandalf is doing in that moment, not only is he reassuring Pippin as a compassionate individual, he's doing what Gandalf does best. He is inspiring courage in others. That's what Gandalf does. That is his power.
Yes.
And I literally cried at that moment at like 2 a.m. while rewatching it.
Every time. And
what's amazing is that like it's been 20 years. Like we all know the dialogue. Like what Gandalf?
Yes, we all know the dialogue.
We all know it, but it doesn't like it just
I'm
like
chills,
you
dude.
will. but like
Right.
it's like you like this. I think the paying dividends of Jackson's movies, like they might be next to Star Wars of like the ultimate, like it gets better as you get older.
Every time.
Because when you're a kid, you're Mary, Pippin, Frodo, Sam, and then by the time you watch it now, especially during hard times, like I don't know if anyone watching noticed, the world kind of sucks right now. That you might have heard. Historically not great. But like when you hear
Went down after
something like unrelenting hope and optimism is so like this was like it was a turning point, you know, because like a couple of years after this we get Batman Begins, and then everyone grossly misunderstands that and wants to dark and gritty everything because they don't understand like what the grounding is. And we've just, you know, we've gotten away from this. That's why Rings of Power this year was so refreshing to have again. But like it's a sensitivity. It's something that we talked about when Nicky and I were rewatching, like that Gandalf takes a moment in the middle of a fight to be poetic, that men love each other and give each other forehead kisses, like forehead kisses for the homies.
Yeah.
Just cause. There you go.
Can't
just
kiss
like,
any of you.
Yeah.
Right? And you're absolutely right. It is that unrelenting hope.
Digital kisses.
And it is that unrelenting hope. That's what it is. I mean, I remember when I first saw The Fellowship, my dad took me and I had no idea what I was getting into. And to this day, I don't know why he's like, yeah, let's go watch Lord of the Rings. I don't know if he listened to a lot of Rush and Led Zeppelin back in the 70s. You know, well.
Hell yeah.
But, you know, this was 2001, December 2001, just a few months after 9/11. And I remember being in the theater. I was 13. I was in the theater, and it's in the Mines of Moria scene. In Frodo's telling Gandalf again. Everything comes back to Gandalf. I want him to be my grandfather. He's telling, you know, he's saying, I wish the ring had never come to me. And Gandalf has the line, so do all who see such times, but that is not for them to decide, et cetera, et cetera. That line took me out of the moment because of my little 13-year-old brain immediately connected it to the wider world events and not understanding what was going on and having everything all of your innocence come crashing down. And not knowing what to do with it, not knowing where to go forward. But that singular line from a movie spoke to me so intensely that I was like, oh no, I'm stuck for life with this. Because it was comfort. It was comfort in that moment. It was reassurance. And like it does the same thing for me that Star Wars does. Not only does it provide an endless well for me to dive into, because there's so many different ways you can get into this, it provides that hope. It's that tether to just hold on, you know, that's why it makes me cry all the time.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I was talking to someone recently about like films are about the only thing that makes me cry. Like
it's true. Put on Big Fish. You are a blumbering mess.
Oh my gosh. Heck, I mean, put on The Last Jedi. I still get teary-eyed when Luke, you know, Peace and Purpose, that last sunset, like because of the way film talks to me. It's not, I don't have this, oh, it's art kind of like thing. It's more of how I see life play out before me in a way that either makes me feel seen, makes me feel not that different, or makes me feel like it's not always going to be this way, or you know, insert situation here. It's just like, and in the same way, you know, you grow with these movies. It's also like where you are in life. Sometimes in life you are Gandalf, and that's great. Be the light to men, please. We need it. But a lot of the time, like, I think part of the reason, if I can like get not really real, like part of the reason I think I hate Frodo so much is I'm more like him than I think anyone in this journey. I'm the guy that can't remember the taste of water and potatoes. I can't remember the Shire I left. Like, life sucks.
Yeah. And so you don't hate Frodo, you hate being called out.
Basically, yes. Like I hate
job, Mr.
feelings.
You're like it has nothing to do with Frodo. It has everything to do with the fact that who would want to be the ring bearer? And I think that's a very realistic, like, who amongst us, like, it's interesting, right? Like to see somebody crumble that way, it does feel like a call out of humanity, but also it's both really dark and saddening, but also really hopeful, because yes, he crumbles, and we all feel sometimes like we are that, you know, who hasn't clocked out of work, gotten home, sat on the couch, and felt like you know,
naked in the dark.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I was gonna be like, who hasn't felt like when he's got like the orcs are talking and he's got like Shelob's web on him, like who doesn't feel like that after a long day? But at the same time, the fact that it had to be them, it had to be a hobbit, that and a dwarf would have failed. A man failed in like T-2 seconds. Boromir failed pre-mission. He was already for good reasons, you know, like his heart was in the right place. But it had to be Frodo, and I think that's a big idea. Like it has to be you because you can take it, and that's the. And it's funny that you bring up the Last Jedi stuff with Luke, because in Phil Shostak's beautiful Art of books, that you get some of the creative notes from like some of the summits, and Filoni, being such a Tolkien head, was like, no, Luke has to keep, like, Luke fading away at the end of Last Jedi is Frodo getting on the ship. He's like, the hero carries the wound. Like that's the end. Like that's why, you know, that's why you don't have Rocky come back and Rocky Balboa and win that fight.
Yeah.
You don't have you know, I still haven't seen Maverick, but something tells me, you know, just by how much everyone says it was amazing, that it's not like it was just so easy for him in the movie. Like it's like, if you're gonna be the person, a price has to be paid. But there's a beauty in the fact that you could do it. And so it's a complicated thing to throw at people, you know, which is why, like, I think it was cool to have in the 2000s for, you know, all of us being, you know, kids and teens, like to have all of these characters and stories hitting at once, like Frodo and Aragorn, sort of, because, you know, yes, it's an ensemble, but like Frodo and Aragorn are kind of the dual protagonists, right? Like, and Sam, you know, you can make the argument, the trinity of the three of them.
You can't have Frodo without Sam.
You can't. They're really a unit. So, but with that, it's like, that's something that all these stories were telling us. Like, you can't be oh, why are you gonna say that?
He does a little bit.
Why are you gonna say that? He's so much more handsome. So much more handsome than Eggman.
I don't think it's a bad thing. Have you seen Jim Carrey's Dr. Eggman?
Jim Carrey's handsome. Jim Carrey's handsome. That's true.
Yes,
that is true.
If I had a scintilla of the talent,
yes, yeah. But like, you know, all these characters that we mentioned in the periphery, like, you don't get to be like, Luke doesn't get to just party. He also has to go burn his father's corpse. Like, Spider-Man doesn't get to kiss MJ at the end of that first one. He has to walk away. Like, Harry is the boy wizard, but that doesn't mean that everything's great. Like, you know,
he literally has to die at the end.
He literally has to die. Yeah.
Sorry, I've gotten an appointment. It's
hey, remember when they like shanked and skinned Aslan on screen? Like,
I do remember that.
Like,
that was
like
dope as hell.
That type of stuff, like, kind of has to happen, and it's hard to see, but it should be hard to see, and it's not like it's not without levity. I think Return of the King might be the funniest of the three movies. I don't know. I don't know where I stand.
There's because of the many plot threads, I do think there's a lot of camaraderie that goes on.
It is also technically horror because of the way that Denethor bites into that tomato.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
He could eat that tomato for hours.
No, he deserved every ounce of that fire, every ounce of it. I hope he screamed all the way down.
It's one of those difficult things for me, because clearly he was like corrupted through, like, hear me out. I just mean, like,
I'm listening.
It's not a Palpatine situation where absolute evil, like, he devolved that way. And
he was a bad father.
Yeah, but there's no coming there, and there is no coming back.
No.
But and that's one of the themes I like about, you know, this whole journey, is that some things are irredeemable because of choices, and that's why choices matter. But then there is, like we were just coming off of, there's no such thing as everything is hopeless too. Right. So it's like, yeah, Gollum, Smeagol, they're gone for sure. Like, Frodo doesn't have to be though. Like Sauron, absolute evil. He's a snake.
He ain't coming back from being a giant eye in the, in the tower.
But Denethor, it was one of those things where it's just like, at one point you weren't this. I mean, it's the same. Like, I pity Wormtongue the same way, where it's just like, you weren't always.
There's dialogue saying you used to be like my trusted friend.
Well, I shared even that, like, during the watch of this, like, about the parallels to how evil corrupts like that. Yeah. Like, literally the ring corrupts its bearer, you know? And so it's one of those things where it's just like, when you do those things and when you make those choices, at some point, you know, it becomes you.
I mean, even I always say it wrong, so I'm going to call it a plantain. The
Palantir.
Thank you.
The fact that you knew, Kev, is why you're here.
That's why.
I don't know what we're talking about, though.
Yeah.
He's here to wear metal shirts and to know things.
I got a metal Christmas sweater.
You do?
I know, and I'm very impressed. I love it.
Yeah.
It was a special edition.
I wore it to upset the old white ladies that don't watch this show.
Who cares?
Right.
Where was I going with that?
Plantains.
Yes, plantains corrupt. Yeah. And that's part of why they're
absolutely true.
Dangerous.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah,
well, that's the cool thing about that's the difference between the book and the movies. In the book, it's the Palantir of the Tower of Minas Tirith that corrupted Denethor. He looked too hard in it, and he was seeing what Sauron wanted him to see. Yeah. And that's in the books, you can understand the fall of Denethor. He's been driven mad by Sauron, right?
Yeah.
But in the movies, it's a little better, because then he's just a dick dad. Like, he's just a bad dad.
I actually like that. Not every the king of Rohan, Theoden was already under a magical snare, right? Like, I like that they chose not to make Sauron the vice of everyone.
I agree.
Like, you know, for me, the way, like, I watch this is that Denethor was corrupted by the world. Like,
he was corrupted by grief and what was happening in the world.
Right. I think. And well, yeah. So the world had gotten to him and made him the king and father. Well, not king, but the steward, and father that he was. The death of his son, it was the thing that made him irredeemable. At that point. But I like better that. Yeah, sometimes it is the influence of others. Sometimes it's your choices in the influence of the world. Like,
exactly.
You know, it adds cards to the game of the lessons you can learn from it, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. Because I think everything in the Lord of the Rings films, actually, I think you nailed it. It boils down to choices. Everyone chooses their path in the Lord of the Rings. Like, Frodo chooses to take the ring from Rivendell to Mordor. He makes that choice. Everyone chooses to accompany him. And when the Fellowship splits, everyone makes their choices to do this, that, or the other thing. The whole thing functions on the choices of these people and the purity of those choices or lack thereof, right?
Yeah. No, that's a big point, because, you know, we talk about irredeemability and all that stuff, and we've said earlier, Frodo fails, right? Frodo
never enough Balrog.
But Frodo fails, and it's one thing, he's been corrupted completely. But it's like, again, choices. Frodo saves himself because it was his earlier choice. It was his own mercy to not kill Gollum and to keep him alive, and just as Bilbo did. And you know, this goes all the way back to Fellowship. You know, it was you know, it's a pity Bilbo didn't kill him or whatever. And so Frodo actually is his own hero in that he loses, but he's saved by his own goodness.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and it goes back to the choice. And I think that's why he, again, is built different to all the other people who have been corrupted by this power. And it's why he's the important hero, because it stems from his good heart.
For sure. There's some Luke Skywalker-ness to it in that, because, you know, Luke is very human. I appreciate so much the human stories we've gotten of him since Return of the Jedi. But the thing that makes him human is also the thing that saves him every time, and that he's Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and so I feel like it's that same tug of war for sure with Frodo, where it's like it's the thing that he's constantly contending with is who he is and how he's fulfilling this calling or this responsibility that's been thrust upon him.
Yeah.
I like that we're making up for the last 2 weeks of like not enough lore conversation.
No, the lore is necessary.
Like the actually, and I'm even saying words, Lord of the Rings words this time.
I'm so proud of you, dude. I am so proud of you.
We need to go for a fourth one. It gets better every week.
I'm telling you, man.
Our guests are always amazing. I will say.
The thing is, we're gonna have to talk about The Hobbit.
Yes. So I just got to keep it up for a year.
That one, I'm going to almost insist that you read the book.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean that was my.
It's just one book.
Yeah, and it's not that intense. It's not that intense. It's
not Dune.
Yeah, no, it's not that.
No, nothing is Dune.
It's the one that's the kids' book.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It literally is.
Yeah.
Fundamentally changed my life.
Right.
Oh yeah, me too. That was my entry into Tolkien when I was in middle school. Was I found a copy of The Hobbit in the library, and within the first paragraph, I was like, "Oh man, this is heady even for me." But I'm stubborn as a mule, so when I run up against something like that, I'm like, nope, you're not going to break me. I will finish this book.
See, that was me. Oh, it was just in my head. I think Harry Potter, where it was where it's just like I'd kind of heard sideways, like in an era where it wasn't necessarily leading immediately to a movie.
Right.
Like I'd heard about this thing, and it was one of those things where it's like literally nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And this book is there. Might as well. And you know, it's game over where it's just like, oh, all of a sudden I'm in this universe. And never expected to get ensnared. But
yeah, I mean, that's the thing that keeps that's the common thread. Any kind of fandom that I am like feral over is anything that has a deep enough well. Like if I can get lost for a lifetime in connective material and I can keep immersing myself in it, it's like Groundskeeper Willie. You just made an enemy for life, you know?
Yeah.
It's exactly what it is.
For life.
Well, like,
exactly.
Like we were talking about, like when it's so infinitely digestible and in so many different ways, like it's the thing that just keeps giving. That's why that's the staying power.
Exactly.
You know?
I come back to the Lord of the Rings every year. I listen to the audiobook every year, mostly because my job has me on the move all the time, but I come back to it all the time. And, you know, I know this year I dove headlong into everything Tolkien. I did the Lord of the Rings audiobook, The Hobbit, I did the Silmarillion. Wow. Beren and Luthien. I did. If you want an absolutely like desolate, you will develop a drinking problem after reading this. Children of Húrin. If you want to, if you have read this book with a steady supply of antidepressants. That's all I'm saying.
Is that in the Silmarillion, or is that a separate thing of itself?
It is. It's briefly referenced in the Silmarillion, and it's greater expanded upon in the Children of Húrin. And it is Tolkien's swing at like the classic Greek tragedy, where it's like, nothing good is happening to anybody.
I don't do drugs because I read the Silmarillion in 6th grade, and it's just like I don't need it. My mind is mush.
But I'm telling you, that's the best thing though, because like you can dive into the heady stuff, and then you can go back and you can like watch the Lord of the Rings movies, and you're like, it's a ball.
Well, for
exactly.
Sure. Like, I was info dumping on Boot recently about
consensually.
Yes. we always ask first. And just actually, you know what? Housekeeping thing for nerds out there, the two that listen to this show. like always ask for consent. Like I don't do that thing of like,
For a lot of things.
hey, have you seen this, or have you heard about this, or you know, like
Yeah.
don't do that thing where you're like trying to pry open the door to talk about what you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Just ask if you can share what you're hyperfixating on.
Yeah.
And if they accept,
Make a Discord
unleash it.
channel,
Yes.
which I've done several times at this point.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So anyway, so yes, consensual info dumping about Gundam, an anime series, started in the 70s, and I was talking about how like series to series, it's been a long running. Actually, it's got a new series happening like right now. New episodes are coming out, and so it's existed since 1979. And for a long time, it was in the hands of a single creator, and it would be back and forth series to series with how kid-friendly or how depressive it was, based on how he was in life and also what the studio gave him ability to do.
Right.
So like the first one comes out and it's super cool. Adults and kids like it, and they're like, hey, make another one and do whatever you want. Just make another one.
Right.
And so the next one, everybody dies. Super depressing. The good guys become the bad guys. Like it's just bad. Like imagine a sequel trilogy. But imagine a sequel trilogy to the originals where
Were you
like
about to say where everybody dies?
no, but where like Luke becomes the next emperor.
Oh, okay.
Like that's the equivalent of what goes on, where it's just like, oh, the turntables. And then they're like, yeah, we're gonna have to cancel that, and you're gonna have to do the next one like way different.
Right.
And so it's that back and forth of like, oh, this is depressing and makes me feel things, but then there's this like lovely turn your brain off and enjoy thing.
There, guys.
And then yeah,
Look, there,
right.
Yeah.
there's a ball.
And so now that Alden is not dumbfoundedly silent, I'm just kidding. No,
No, it's true.
I wonder what
He's
people
staring into
thought
space.
for the past 5 minutes.
Had a brief moment of weakness where the ring is over. Fun fact, everyone.
Nasty.
Your body is ill-made. And
Yes.
I am drinking water with Alka-Seltzer for some.
Oh my gosh. I've had flashbacks continually. I think it's been like 2 weeks now, because lo and behold, we talk off air. And you were talking about like the human body in peak physical form and how many times you would take a dump during the day.
Oh yeah, like if we were perfect, yeah.
Yes.
I think it was
It's
like some History Channel thing that was like, if we hadn't ruined everything, we would probably go poop like 6 times a day, and we would sleep in bursts instead of an 8-hour.
Is that
sleep
not
shifts.
normal?
So you know that thing
You guys don't do that?
Nicky's like, the peak specimen,
right, get on my level, guys.
built
so
different.
after having just had that grandstand about like getting consent for info dumping, I have shared that with like a dozen people since that conversation.
Now you know
Unconsensually.
the look that I get every single day when you just share information that nobody asked for.
Pretty much.
Does everyone not?
It's the Boop special
It-
and the Alden
yeah,
special, apparently.
It happens at least 15 times a day where it's like something comes out of my mouth and my brain's like, oh no, that happened, huh? There's no getting that back.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
think I have ever once, and to loop it into Tolkien, it's been happening a lot because of Rings of Power. Like it was the other day, I think I was talking to our friend, all of our friends, Jared, the Dark Jedi from Nerd Academy, and he said something, and I was like, let me tell you about the Elven King Fingolfin. And like I don't ask to info dump them. That's like I think that's why I love Boop and your tendency to just be like, here's an animal fact, or like,
Yeah.
here's something I hate about the way people do their charcuterie boards. Like here's
It's so stupid.
Oh
Why
my gosh.
butter candle? That is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my
it's
life.
pretty dumb. It's pretty
Okay.
dumb.
Rookies.
Do you guys want to
I'm
know
gonna
where,
unconsensually info dump my cool mug on you guys.
There we go.
Yeah.
do you want to know where vanilla extract flavor comes from?
At some point.
Okay.
In the meantime, I've had this question sitting for a minute for Kev, because funnily enough, Bradley, we were talking about this sort of before the show started. Because that's what you do. That's what you do. So,
can you imagine being stabbed by a stinger that big?
No, but I can't imagine it was fun.
Christopher Lee would know what sound it makes.
Right, absolutely. He's been there.
Oh, we had a whole spider stab gate moment. Nicky, you remember?
Yeah, we did.
We had
big
Nicky,
questions.
bring up what you brought up to me and break everyone's brain like we had.
Okay, so yeah, I was just curious. I was curious why the mithril vest stopped the spear, but it didn't stop the Shelob stinger.
That's a good point.
So
we just attributed
snap! He did have that on.
Old magic, like is it just so anciently
yeah.
evil kind of thing?
We came up with like a few like one. The most logical explanation is that the mithril vest stops like most shirts at waist. And it might have gotten him in like upper groin.
Right.
Yeah,
he had probably got sport bra mode.
Yeah, probably got further upper groin. Also, like if you're a dude and like you wear a tank, like I've got a tank under this shirt, like you know, if it's disheveled underneath his, like could have just seized it's not tucked right. Like there are
possibility.
But then the most fun is that, as you know, we know, and like I don't know, John, I don't know if you know this, that spider Shelob is like itty bitty baby status, and its mother is a spider called Ungulia.
Hang on, why did you assume I don't know?
Because you've been talking about how you're new.
I'm offended. You're right, but darn you for being right.
This giant ass spider called Ungulian was like big enough to bring down like the trees that existed before the sun.
So is that like, so he's Kumunga from the Godzilla series?
Yeah, like a kaiju spider once existed, and this is just its last kid.
He said Undulus.
Oh, I thought you were talking about
no, Shelob. Yeah,
Shelob's a girl. I think Ungulian was a girl too.
Yes, yeah. For some reason, all the spiders are female. Yeah.
To be fair, I did not ask their pronouns.
Black Arachnia.
That's true.
That is definitely a she/her.
Yes.
What kind of
if you want to feel weird about like how you feel about spiders, look up Black Arachnia. It's a transformer. It will make you feel things. But anyway,
Silverbolt.
Sorry. No, I had a moment there before you like called me out judgingly, where like I've reached the. So I put
just how he talks.
I put a candy cane in my coffee before the show, and I had reached.
Oh, is that what that was?
I reached the point where like it didn't spread throughout the coffee. It's all the bottom is just. Oh my gosh. So it's just slapping me in the face. So speaking of bug deterrents and whatnot, peppermint. But Kev, how would you take down Shelob other than your just swole cannons?
Okay, so
you got a license for those things?
Yeah, it's expired. Ideally, you would want to use a microencapsulated formula, because most standard pesticides don't enter into spiders that way because they don't preen themselves like insects do. So yeah, you'd want to go with the microencapsulated. Hold on, let me say it like a real Texas pest control guy. What you want to use is a microencapsulated blend. You want to use about a gallon of water and say about 2 ounces of active ingredient. You want to agitate it real good, spread it everywhere. Barring that, a good 12 gauge ought to do it.
And honestly, like, how shameful for Samuel as a man of agriculture to not know this.
Right?
Like, it's what are you doing?
Right?
Like low status gardener.
Exactly. But a good friend, and that's what matters.
Oh
Absolutely.
Man, Samwise is the best. Samwise is the best. If I could be one person, it'd be Samwise.
Dude.
If I could aspire to be anybody, it'd be that.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Like I can't, like I talked about that in Fellowship when running down the roster. Like he's my favorite because of that, because of how inspiring he is and everything. Like I'm definitely there with Gandalf, because Gandalf says the most things that like reach me. But as far as like the one where like they get everything of my attention all the time, they stick with me even well after seeing these things. Like we talked about the speech he gives in Two Towers. Even like all like, oh my gosh, like Samwise really does it for me. for that, and wanting to be that,
Yeah.
wanting to be the one that doesn't give up.
Exactly.
Not the one that stumbles all the time.
I'm saying all
Exactly.
this. Literally, the reason I am the type of friend that I am to people is because of Samwise.
That's
and
called
because of
napalm, Brian.
who
It's actually DDT and Durr's band.
I knew some of those words. Was there some? Oh yeah. Yeah, the characterization of Samwise is loyalty in every form. Like that is what makes him such a good person, is because he is the last scrap of home that Frodo has.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that is so incredibly important. He is
100%.
the reminder of what he's fighting for.
And he's
100%.
also he gets to be, without being the chosen one. He's not the ring bearer, he's a ring bearer. He's not the main character, he's the B character. He's like 1A.
He's support. Yeah.
But he gets to have his own self-fulfilling prophecy that's not about myth, it's just about an ideal, a hopeful ideal. When he says it's like the great stories, Mr. Frodo, and he goes into that at the end.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he gets to be the one that gets to finish it, and and you can have fun and look into the future and know that he becomes, I think, mayor of Hobbiton and all that stuff, and everything that he would go on to do. Sam, much like, it's no coincidence that Jon Snow's best friend is also named Sam and would also chronicle the story of that world, talking about inspirations and stuff. Somebody has to be the one that tells people, somebody has to be the one that's a very George Lucas-y, it's never Star Wars canon, but there's a common idea, is the Skywalker saga R2 years later, someone that was there for it. You need somebody that is media aware of where, of being in the story.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing that inspires me the most about Samwise, and the thing that he's the character that gives me the most resolve and hope, because no matter what, he just keeps putting one foot in front of the other.
Exactly.
There's nothing he is a Terminator. He just keeps walking forward. And that's life, man. Cause you're going to get beat up constantly. You're going to look like Rocky Balboa after going 15 rounds with Apollo Creed every day. And all you can do is just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
For sure.
And that's the thing. Every time I see the movie, especially when he picks up Frodo and he's carrying him up Mount Doom, I'm just like, go, little rock star, go.
I can't carry it, but I can carry you. Oh my God.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Right?
I would just drag you from the back of the
That's
I love
fine.
you so much, but I cannot live.
There's absolutely times like that.
They would take each of your giant ass feet under and
going.
Oh my gosh. Well, like I said, I'm proud of us for how on topic we've been. I think this is the most we've actually talked about Lord of the Rings. But what I like is every week, it always starts the same, and that's really what sets the pace, I think, and the fun I've gotten to have in different ways. Each week's had its own unique spin on it, because it all comes from the way that all of the guests join us in loving this thing. And so in the first one, it's all that fun and relationship and everything, and it's all these cool characters, it's this awe and everything, and then in the second one, it gets to get more personal and all of that. And now here, with the things it leaves you with when you leave this journey, I think is the cool thing that we've been able to kind of journey through and whatnot. But nonetheless, because we are in an extended edition podcast, we cannot go forever. But I did want to talk about some highlights, big moments, favorites. We've talked about a lot of things, but if there's anything in particular, this is the thing that makes it for you, or that plays in your head even.
Nicky with the
right. Let me at him.
Well,
okay. Well, have at these, sir.
Go, buddy.
Shall I? Yeah, I mean, there's so many moments in this movie that are just incredible. One, they stay with you forever, but I think my favorite scene of any movie ever made that I've ever seen is Rohan arriving at Minas Tirith, and I love that scene. Every time I watch it, I start tearing up. Every time I listen to the music in the car, I start tearing up. And it's one of those scenes because that I love. I love it across all sorts of different stories, because when they get to the field, this story ceases to be about the battle. It is about these people, and you meet them in the Two Towers, and they're broken. Their king doesn't know anything. He's under the spell of Sauron, or Saruman, and his family is a wreck. His son died. You see more cheer in a graveyard. That's what Rohan was. And now they're on the field, and they've found themselves again. And it's done with Howard Shore, because Howard Shore gives you the most triumphant version of the Rohan theme. And it just goes for it for those 3 minutes. And I just love those scenes because it's about triumph of the spirit. And like, it doesn't matter when we charge into this army, if we all die, we found ourselves again. We are the people of Rohan, and this is how we're gonna go. And so I always love that scene, and just like, it's like so like inspirational to me. It's I'm seeing that also. I thought of when I saw it was in Loki, when classic Loki gets up and what's the
glorious
words?
purpose.
Glorious purpose. He found himself again.
Asgard,
he found his meaning, and it didn't matter that he was Dunzo's. Like, that's what it's about.
Like we talked, we brought up Rocky. Like, we did Rocky Balboa on What It's Done Film Club, and when he does that final fight, he's in his late 50s, early 60s. He's walking and waving to the crowd while they're still announcing the results. It's not about the results are irrelevant, like Theoden's yelling death. Like, that's what it, like, and in Two Towers, it was sort of cynical, like, for death and glory. And Aragorn's like, no, for Rohan. And now he's able to focus that into something like that is way more pure. Like, it feels, and that there's a series of those. Like, when we were watching it last night, Nicky, like, even small ones, like something that stuck out to me that had never dawned on me that I think is sort of in the same family of that is when Sam is, as Nicky points out, going down the stairs in the worst way. Should have climbed down this way instead of climbing down this way. And he's heading back down the steps, and he sees the lembas bread that Gollum tossed, and he looks at it. It's the only time that Sam ever exhibits wrath. And it's not wrath like, I'm going to go up there and kill this, it's not that. It's he's looking at it and he's like, this wretched creature, like, you don't get to decide my narrative. And that's happens with Rohan, it happens with Sam, it happens with Aragorn. Like, that's why Aragorn's speech is famous line is, "It is not this day." Like, it's not to say that we won't have trials later. Life's not like it. Life sucks sometimes. Aragorn knows this, especially now that he's king. Like, if we make it out of here, there's still going to be problems. But right now, we have the moral victory, and I think that's like, I mean, that's the stuff, right? Like, that's
exactly it.
That's Luke like throwing the saber. Like,
that's the secret sauce.
You can still kill him, but the moral victory is over.
Going back to what we were talking about earlier, like that's the choice. That's the themes of choice, and like the choice you make matters more than the results of your choice, if that makes sense. In that, like, you bring up Luke in that sense, like tossing your sword away. Like, what good is that in this moment? Well, I mean, like, the choice is made. What happens now happens, but the choice was made. The choice to not kill his father but save his father. The choice also to not turn, like, he didn't turn anyone else's way but his own in that moment. And the culmination here, where it's not him choosing to take up the sword and go train with Yoda, it's now the choice to start your own path. It's not the cynical choice to defend your place pridefully. It's the choice to stand for something, and at least, you know, die standing.
And to end a cycle, right? Because the problem with like Gondor and Rohan throughout this has been like, well, they were petty to us once. Well, they were petty to us once, and like somebody finally has to be the ones that
that is so sweet.
Oh, that's so sweet. I'm not worthy.
Love you, Brennan. Shout out.
I'm absolutely crotchety.
You are merry.
I so funny because like I aspirationally know who I'd like to be in Tolkien's world, but I think he has the hardest to place. Like that's me, you know, out of all of them because they are so high end. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to be anybody in the Fellowship, even Boromir. I think Boromir is a highly underrated character, and I agree, gotten closer to my favorites as we've gone on. But yeah, the Rohan charge is incredible. The moment that I wanted to shout out before we, you know, if we're talking favorites, is what's become my favorite line in all 6 of the Jackson movies. Is right at the end, right at the harbor, when Gandalf says, "I will not say, do not weep," or "I will not say, do not weep." Not all tears are an evil. Like that line has, not to be like super serious and take the mood down, but like it has been a hard 2 years. These have been the most depressing 2 years of my entire life, and I have had moments in the kitchen, in the backyard, in the room, just like while editing, while working, whatever, podcast. On this tonight, literally right now in the bathroom while thinking I was going to be sick. Like I have had moments where I will constantly just try to be like, I will not say, do not weep, for not all tears are an evil, which when you simplify it like a fraction is just cry. Yeah. And it just do it. But also because like yeah, the Fellowship ends, but the Fellowship was a formality, but like what we all gained is never going to be taken away. And then you know, again, you can have fun with it and learn that one day Gimli gets to go to the West, and Legolas leaves, and Merry and Pippin's bodies are in a tomb next to Aragorn's. It's like the Fellowship, capital F, is over, but like you cry because we did it, like, and we
the real Fellowship were the friends you made along the way.
Oh, come on, Nicky.
That's your joke. I think Lord of the Rings invented friends we made along the way. Probably. I think it really can be considered like the first one.
Yeah, well, one of the things, so for me, so like I love Transformers. It pops up every now and then. If you follow me on
there's literally a Transformer right there.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I'm already holding one baby that fell
over.
But yes.
Do I need to hold this one?
My new favorite Star Saber.
It's not a Gundam. I thought it was.
I thought it was a Gundam too.
It was designed by the same mechanical designer that designed the Zeta Gundam, which is the first transforming Gundam. There's a theme.
Dial it back.
Yeah.
Don't get started.
Sorry. But
I hear Zeta Gundam and I'm like, I know what that is. I
don't. No one does. That's why we don't talk about Gundam. We will one day, but it's going to absolutely be.
What was the one Gundam show that was chibi?
Gundam SD.
Oh.
It was the little chibi little guys. I watched that on Toonami, I think.
Yeah, so that was a thing that happened. Yeah, Gundam SD, Super Deformed, was a thing, because much like with Star Wars,
I'm gonna kill you.
Much like with Star Wars, they try to have something for every age. So that was the younger audience one, you know, and then there was Gundam Wing that was happening at the same time and stuff like that. But
G Gundam is the best.
See, now you're talking, and now I'm talking about Gundam. See what's happened. So, but anyway, my point being, like,
nerd, we're trying to talk about something cool,
right? Clearly, I love these. I love these things. The Transformers run of comics and a literal era of comics is ending with IDW Comics, and it's just a big deal because so much. Like this was when like Dark Horse lost the license to Star Wars stuff. I don't know if anybody else grew up in the era of Dark Horse Star Wars comics, but like if you loved the Clone Wars, that was what was happening. If you read any of the foundational like Boba Fett stories, if you read Heir to the Empire in comic form, like Dark Horse owned Star Wars for so long. And if you wanted something other than traditional books or movies, it was comics, and they did it and did it well. And so this is happening for Transformers fans, and the thing that the creators keep saying and the drum they keep beating throughout all of it is the phrase, "We achieved something." You know, everything they're doing and saying their goodbyes is about this, the sadness, yes, but it's more of looking proudly at what happened, not lamenting that it's over, but glad that it happened. And so that it was supposed to take like 30 seconds to say all that, but
don't cry because it's over, cry because it happened. Yes.
Yeah, but to your point, like so that my version of that recently has been that we achieved something, like, and turning that into, to me, of like, you know, I'm achieving. It may not be as much or what I want exactly, and it may not be everything right now, but stuff is happening. And so, yes, I feel how I feel right now, and I have to let myself feel those things, but I'm achieving something day by day, choice by choice, thing by thing. And so I don't know what I have to say more than just like, I really love that moment. Yeah.
It was beautiful. The whole movie is full of beautiful moments. I mean, the fact that, you know, we could go this long without without talking about so many iconic moments. I mean, it's just stacked from top to bottom. Like the beginning of the movie is instantly iconic. I mean, that's true. I mean, it has felt that way. The Eowyn stuff with "I Am No Man," is instantly iconic. The stuff with the actual, you touched on it, John, the summoning of the Army of the Dead. I think one of the most hardcore, just like chills down your spine lines ever in film is "You will suffer me." Like it is so good, and
which
it's
I
like
say to all of you at least once a week. Get ready for boot.
Absolutely. Kev, tops, big moments, favorites.
It's honestly, it's nothing that actually occurs within the movie. It's the music.
Absolutely.
It's Howard Shore's score. Because without his mastery, and that's what his score to those films is, it's a master class in movie film score composition. But it's with all of those moments that are so powerful and impactful are in part that way because of the music behind it. Everything from the big bombastic moments like the charge of the Rohirrim at the Pelennor Fields to the small moments like that. My favorite moment where Gandalf is comforting Pippin and giving him courage, because there's that little quiet refrain of "Into the West" in the background there. And then of course, like the movie ends with Annie Lennox belting, you know, "Into the West" in such a beautiful fashion.
It's beautiful.
It is. I mean, like, and every one of those movies has something that, like, you wouldn't think that I would listen to this stuff. Like, right? Like, you know, at the end seriously, because at the end of the Fellowship, it's Enya, right?
Right.
Yes.
The end of Two Towers, I cannot remember the name of the artist, but she does Gollum's song, and it's beautiful and haunting. And then you get Annie Lennox at the end of Return of the King. You know, it's not something that's in my normal rotation of music. I mean, but it's so beautiful, and it's so so hopelessly connected to the movie and the experience that I listen to this stuff standalone. It's like if I've got work to do, I'll put the Lord of the Rings on. I'll put, you know, if I've got editing or whatever, like, or even just some busy work, I'll put that on because it's just there's these beautiful ethereal moments, and it goes all over from these loud, bombastic, huge musical moments to the most quiet, subtle things. That's it for me.
It's an amazing range of atmosphere. I laugh in part because like an hour before the show, I discovered a metal cover of Icy Fire.
Yes.
And so it's one of the
So good.
Jonathan Young, right? Jonathan
Yes!
Young. Yes.
Oh,
Yes!
dude,
Oh my
the Jonathan
gosh.
Young is like one of the most underrated YouTubers, I think.
Absolutely.
For sure. I love so much that he's like really breaking, like he's collaborating with one of my favorite like major metal artists now. Like I love so much that he's getting to take what he does. Like nothing's changed. He still does his thing. But I love that he's getting to do it for bigger audiences.
He's kind of like resurrected Dio.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Same
a good way of putting it.
Belting. It's
Oh yeah.
so good.
Well, and that's the thing is like it's like you talk about, like it's the big stuff. He's really able to make the bigger in a lot of. He does it with Disney all the time. Check it out. You know, not a sponsor, but check out Jonathan.
I couldn't
Period.
endorse it hard enough.
Also, check out Caleb Hines. He's amazing too.
They did a
Caleb Hines is
cover of
great.
It's Tough to Be a God. And it is amazing.
Now we're just talking music.
Something also about the score. I also love it so much. I can't give you this is my favorite film score of all time, but like Return of the King is in the conversation, right? Like it's you know, it's perfect. And I think also something that I don't know if people like think about a lot is how influential it was on scores going forward. Because I think without the Return of the King soundtrack, Revenge of the Sith does not have as much choral like bombacity, you know, like I don't think it goes as big if they're not also sort of hearing this new tone of closing out.
That's fair.
So yeah, I think it really did leave its mark, that score in particular, on fantasy, on film, on all sorts.
Oh
yeah. Well, like I talked about last week, because I think it just stuck to me more in Two Towers, but like how I see scenes in my head and hear the music, or vice versa, where like it's so inseparable from the media, because it pairs so well with the setting or the circumstances.
It's that weird synesthesia. Kind of like how Concerning Hobbit smells like bread.
Yep.
I like that.
Sure.
It's the thing in my brain. Whenever I hear Concerning Hobbits, I smell bread.
Isn't smelling toast like a stroke thing?
Yeah.
That would
Or you're
require more than
overcooking
2
your
brain
toast.
cells, Alden.
Or you're overcooking your toast.
Yeah, like
whichever's more likely.
That's sad. Anyway.
There's something so powerful about the music of this movie in particular, because like my favorite scene is good grief, I can't remember his name. All of it. I love that same movie so much. Pippin singing Edge of Night to Denethor.
Oh, it's amazing.
That is such a powerful song, and Billy Boyd absolutely crushes it. All of the emotion in that scene coming from his voice. And I've found in my life that if I ever need a good hard cry, all I need to do is listen to Billy Boyd sing, because it's that one.
Yeah.
And it's the song that he sang for The Hobbit.
That one's so good. That one's so good.
I will
It's beautiful.
disintegrate into tears listening to that song.
Yeah.
Interesting. I obviously know the one from Lord of the Rings. I don't
Well, I'll play it for you.
know the one about The Hobbit.
And I was glad that, it's not in the same canon, but they kept the tradition by bringing Fiona Apple in for Rings of Power.
That's true.
That the season finale, she does the song about the forging of the rings, and it is awesome.
Haunting.
I am all about moody women from the history of music coming in and just dropping a Tolkien banger and then moving on. They had Enya,
Celine
they had Annie
Dion
Lennox.
win.
They got
Exactly.
do
I'm
it.
in. I'm into it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
for
into
sure. So like, my favorite thing is, I think, kind of like a simple one comparatively, because like with Two Towers, my favorite thing is the big climactic battle and the phases of it and everything. I really enjoy it here too, and especially how drawn out it is when the Oliphants come in, and
Timothy Oliphants, yes.
that's how you're supposed to say it. That's
Is there
his
an edit
name.
of that yet where It's just his face on all the
Charlie
kill.
Scoops Ashby on the horn.
Oh my
now.
gosh, yes, that
They
needs to
just cut
happen
over,
now.
and all the Oliphants are like, think it through.
Oh, and there's just that one in the background, like howdy.
Oh,
So
the elephant's beautiful.
I love all of that.
Yeah.
I don't know with this one for me, like thematically, there's so much here. With finally achieving, destroying the ring, with bringing light back to man, the new king, all of these things that happen that signal a new era, a refreshing, the next step. I think in that, like, I really like the scene where, I played it jokingly at the beginning, but like when like Frodo realizes it's done, when he and Sam kind of just collapse under it, and they await death, rescue. They don't know, but when Gandalf does come with the eagles and everything, like I think for me it's just in the film, it's very much the signal it is done. But I also, in talking about all of the relatable themes with this, it's one of those just like I feel it by osmosis and long for that it is done. Like in my own, whatever the ring is for me, and there doesn't even have to be a ring. If there ever is a ring, I long for that time when it's done. we have the ring.
It's somewhere.
It's by my lampstand.
Oh, cool.
Keep it secret.
Oh, dang it! I spoiled the secret.
It's quite cool.
It's actually been in my pocket. For
Hey, if that means Ian McKellen's going to come visit me, I will tell the secret to the world.
Yeah. Let me know when. Let me know when.
And remember, he's not trying to rob you.
Right.
He's trying to help you.
One other thing. Can I also give a shout out to people Alden and I talk about all the time? The best glove shittos in the movie are the Rivendell blacksmiths who reforge Narsil into Anduril. Find anyone who loves their job as much as the elf who is hammering that thing.
Yeah,
because he is going for it.
Well, like
it rocks.
It's
and
got so much
music is blasting, and it's just like
I love nerdy conversations about what off-screen conversations there must have been, because we see Arwen telling Elrond like reforge the sword, but like we do not see, nor do we need to. This is obviously somewhat joking. We don't see Elrond then go to the blacksmiths and give the order. But imagine the blacksmith's reaction. Like, you want us to do? I'm sorry, what? Like, you want us to that
you
one?
Want us to touch that?
Like, are you sure? Because we can't break it again. Like,
right, the pressure, the pressure.
Yeah, like. The shards that have been there for 3,000 years that are still sharp to the touch, as Boromir learned. Like, and it has such like again, like these two unnamed guys, like they are facilitating this final breakthrough of greatness, and it's the music and the low opacity Elrond, which is my favorite thing that happens.
You can't have mundane blacksmithing too.
No, absolutely.
No. Like, it has to be. If you're gonna do it, it has to be epic.
Something to jump off of what Alden was just saying with the sword, like why that's such a moment is I think feeds back into the conversation we had earlier about the sword versus the tunic, and it's like the sword is legacy, like just planted from the first movie, right? Like it's the sword that cut the ring from Sauron. It's the sword of the kings. It's the sword from Numenor. Like it's all this stuff, and it's his now. It's his responsibility, and I think that is why it's a much more powerful symbol than I'm wearing the banner. I'm wearing like my sigil.
Look at that.
This is power. Yeah,
which they still are able to work in, because the costume design and the production design are unparalleled to this day and are god tier. But the final Aragorn look when they ride on the Black Gate, and he does have the tree, and he's got these new pauldrons and everything, like, and his hair is kind of back with like the silver jewels, like it's gorgeous.
Even the scene of them getting ready for battle, that scene where his stewards are dressing him, like it's
You can barely
There he
see
is.
it, but
yeah.
It is that outfit, but yeah.
It is the
Yeah.
poster one, yeah. And that, by the way, the posters for this trilogy are god tier. And
Incredible.
That one is
if you're not gonna do like Struzman art for your posters,
yeah,
like what they did for theirs, like with the
like
actual actors
compositionally,
yeah, like
Brilliant.
take notes. If I can rewind a second, so did the sword have a different name before it was
Yes, dear.
reforged?
Yes.
It was
Okay, you
originally
kind of just dropped that. I
Narsil.
didn't notice that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's called Narsil, and then Narsil is shattered, and then the reforged version is Anduril, the flame of the
Do
west.
the names mean something?
I don't know if Narsil has a name. I don't remember
No,
Nicky.
there's
Like a
probably-
meaning.
Yeah,
I
there's
don't know.
probably a
Yeah.
Tolkien.
I
There's
don't-
probably a Tolkien scholar out there.
It's
That
like a
has the name.
Numenorian word or
someone,
something.
yes,
or-
Ask Justin.
wreck me in the comments and
Yeah.
educate me, please.
Wreck me in the
Yeah.
comments.
So I think it's like the elves. Did the elves gift it to the Numenorians? Like it's an old ass sword.
Probably.
Like,
It's old.
like
Yeah.
I can't
No,
remember.
and it looks like they're probably going to drop some threads in Rings of Power because there's one little small.
Oh,
scene where
we
you
see
see-
it.
yeah,
We
yeah.
see
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
When he
there's- so
comes
they're-
up into the room, there's
Like,
a
yeah.
spear,
If I had to make a prediction,
Yeah.
if I had to make a prediction, it belonged to Elros, the first
Mhm.
king of Numenor. If I had to make a prediction, if they were going to try to thread
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it would probably be that. You
Yeah.
know, otherwise, why would it be hanging out in this little vault area?
What
Yeah.
I digress.
what's Numenor?
Numenor is the island nation with which Aragorn's forebears come from. They were. It was an island gifted to men called the Edain that aided the elves in the final battle.
The
against
Rangers.
Morgoth. Kinda.
We're getting close.
So the Rangers are the Dunedain,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and they are so like Aragorn is 80 years old. He has sort of like less potent as the generations have gone on, longevity, enhanced ability. It's a whole thing, but
I
like
know he's got healing touch. Like I know that
Numenorians were high men. They
Yeah.
were like they're like 7 to 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
They were just like the goats of the race of men.
Yes.
And they had their whole thing, but then they screwed it up, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Stay
in Fellowship, there's one line when remember when Elrond and Gandalf are debating about what to do before the council, and he's like, "I was there, Gandalf. I was that whole scene." He has that line where he says, "The blood of Numenor is all but spent; its pride and dignity forgotten." So basically, what he's saying is the men we got, Gandalf, are like the scraps.
They don't make them how they used to.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
here's the thing. Here's the thing, John. Elrond's brother was the first king of Numenor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the
Elrond's
Yeah.
a half elf.
first. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
I'm
so-
telling you, it gets deeper, dude.
It's like really like some of the most like it's not an insult. It is
No.
the most overcomplicated lore that
Yeah.
exists.
Yes.
And I
No, it's
love it.
overcomplicated for a reason.
good
Yeah.
lord.
It's important.
It's like did you know, John, that the world of so
I
the
once knew him.
actual planet that Middle Earth is on is called Arda. It was once flat.
Hmm?
Flat earthers are valid in that world because it was true.
Yeah.
As part of punishment, their god Ilúvatar rounded the earth, but elves still perceive it magically the way it once was, which is why elves have such incredible sight, because they still see a flat plane. It is
Yep.
bananas.
Buckle up, buddy.
There are
Elrond's-
there.
Elrond's dad got turned into a star.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, so John,
Nicholas?
And then
the
Galadriel
vial-
put it in her little bathwater vial.
yeah,
Wait,
the little
wait,
vial
wait.
that he
Yeah.
gets
the
that
elf
lights
gamer
up.
girl bathwater.
Is-
Yeah.
Mhm.
That
you
is
se- wait.
The light of Erendil.
yeah.
is
That's
light
his
of
dad?
Erendil.
Is Elrond's dad.
Elrond's
The
father.
light
yeah.
of his the
Yeah,
light,
light of
his
the
father.
star.
The light of
Yeah,
his
yeah.
father. So Elrond's dad literally like you remember in Avatar: The Last Airbender where it's like my girlfriend became the moon.
Yeah,
Like,
That's rough, buddy.
It's actually
it's that.
it's actually
oh
that.
my god.
Yeah.
And Galadriel is Elrond's best friend and mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Arwen's mother is Galadriel's daughter.
What a life.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh my gosh, my brain just broke for a second.
Yep. Buckle up, pal.
This is why I said I don't do drugs after I read the Silmarillion in sixth
I
grade.
mean, clearly, my God,
Ain't
this
stopped me.
explains
It's a
so
whole
much about
thing.
you people.
There's a whole thing.
Brennan, can you confirm if that you're talking about Aldria?
Oh yeah, is that Narsil?
or the
That would
other
make
one?
sense.
The not Narsil, Narcan.
Andúril.
No, that would make sense because it would make sense to name if the original name meant red and white flame, it would make sense to call the new sword the Flame of the West.
The Flame of the West. Yeah. Keep it
That would track.
continuity wise.
That would track.
Ooh, interesting. Well, there we
I'll
go.
buy that for $1.
I'd buy that for $1.
Exactly.
Go watch RoboCop.
If just for this slib action in that first
oh my
scene.
gosh, yes.
Oh my gosh, it's so juicy.
I remember, like, my mother showed me so many things she shouldn't have, I guess, by normal standards.
No, it changed you as a person.
We've talked about this
That's okay.
on the show many a time. But the one time I remember my mom like pausing something and like, "Are you okay?" Was RoboCop.
It's okay. We're not talking about RoboCop.
No, we will though.
The scene where he's getting his limbs
You've
shot
been
off
warned.
by the dad from that 70s show.
Yeah, don't mess with Red Foreman.
Yeah, put some respect on Kurtwood Smith. All right.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. He will put his foot up your ass.
Best.
That 90s show.
Best.
That show coming soon. By the way, quick aside about that 70s show, has one of the funniest lines of all time, and it's relevant to Star Wars, so it's relevant to Nerd Herd.
Yes.
When there's a brief exchange when Eric and Red argue, and it's after Star Wars has come out in their timelines, I think like season 2, season 3. Because there's a whole episode about Star Wars coming out where like Kelso wants to go see it again, and Jackie's like, "We don't need to go see Star Wars again." And he's like, "Well, damn, Jackie, Star Wars is a limited engagement." Like it's so funny, but they're at the breakfast table the next day, and Red's like, "Oh, all I hear from you damn kids is Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars." And Eric's like, "All I hear from you is dead commies, dead commies, dead commies." And that
okay,
has
maybe
stuck
I need
with
to
me
go watch
forever.
the show.
I have all of the seasons. If it wasn't
Oh
for Danny
my
Masterson,
gosh.
I would be watching it right now. He's in prison, by the way.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing that he's in prison.
John,
like-
read that out loud. Read that
Did
out
the
loud.
Scientologists get him out?
I think I think it's ongoing. Like the trial is happening.
Dude should pay. Dude
should pay.
But
stay in prison.
Yeah.
He is his character from Eight-Legged Freaks.
Oh, that's a movie I haven't thought
You made
about
it
in
real.
years.
Or was it Eight-Legged Freaks, or was it the other big one?
Arachnophobia.
That's the one.
There you go.
Arachnophobia. Yeah.
Eight-Legged Freaks has David Arquette, right? Or is that
Yes,
yeah,
it does.
there you go.
Former
we know our bug
WCW
movies
champion.
We're off topic.
No, we're on topic. Spiders.
Shelob.
Shelob. Got it.
See?
Wrapped further in a
It's
giant condom. Yeah.
7 degrees of separation. You know.
How
Anyway,
comfy must have that been?
not very.
Not
I
very,
don't know.
no.
No.
It seems like it would be comfy being like wrapped up.
Again, not against your
Swaddled.
will.
Yeah.
Like,
Sleep
Well,
under a
the
layer blanket.
in Andor, when the two homies get Caspian and Melchi in
Oh
those
yes.
nets, it reminded me of Shelob web.
Welcome to the wet net.
That's-
Club.
It just
Yeah.
didn't have like the Frodo face of it, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
that. Well, anyway, clearly this is devolving, so that means it is time for it to truly be done. Sad to see it go, but glad to have done it. And the conversations along the way, really enjoyed it. This clearly cannot be the end. I have much more of Middle Earth to learn and explore. Rings of Power is a thing. The Hobbit is a thing. There will be much more Tolkien on the show now that I'm into it. And I'm very happy to be into it. And I
Yeah.
appreciate
Welcome.
all of you for being into it much earlier than me and being willing to come here and talk about it.
Yeah. Look forward to listening
anytime.
to me cry over the comforts of home themes of The Hobbit.
Oh yeah.
That's beautiful.
And we'll have to remind in a year, but just always remember, because some people have very strong feelings about The Hobbit. you know,
I don't care.
Hey, I'm with you.
I have strong feelings of love.
What's
Yeah.
not what's
Same,
what's
Nicky.
not your
You
favorite
and me.
is somebody's favorite. Just always
Exactly.
remember that.
I
Yeah.
sobbed in the theater.
Oh yeah.
And so you all podcast, you're all amazing. And so if you have any shout outs, now is the time. Nicky, you've been our star player. We've been reversing the
carried the
algorithm this whole time.
No worries.
Wait, hang on, let me make it official. Hang on. There we go.
Hey!
Right
Oh
up there
goodness.
next to us.
There we go.
But yeah,
Good boy that you
what's
are.
coming up for you, Nicky?
Yeah, I guess first of all, thanks so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to talk about Lord of the Rings. And it's something I don't get to do enough because we're so obsessed with Star Wars. But anyway, yeah, you can check out the One and Done Film Club, which is a great show I do actually with that guy below me now and our other friend Reed, where we explore blockbuster franchises. Lord of the Rings will eventually be one of them. And we watch along commentary episodes, so we decide which one to watch and we watch it there, and we hope you anyone listening would watch it with us. So you can check that out at the letter N Done Show on Twitter and podcast. You can check out the Imperial Senate podcast, which is where the Star Wars talk happens and all sorts of other odd things happen. And then I also do a Star Wars Rebel show with Alden that I will let him plug because that is in his domain.
Yeah, that's a rewatch between worlds. It's over on Octa Radio, Star Wars podcast, where you can get my show, you can get the interviews, all the coverage of the shows, and then a rewatch is one of the sister show projects that we do there, going through all of Star Wars Rebels, and all the Star Wars Rebels behind the scenes as well. So we're also tracking like the making of it as it was happening after talking about it. You can find me on Casterly Talk with Ken Knapsack, and Nicky is one of our rotating panelists that comes in to talk about all things Ice and Fire, Tolkien, and now Willow is all sort of there. That's our fantasy channel. Hoping to do some more stuff with StarTrek.com soon. That freelance life where you're just like, do you like this idea? Do you like this idea? Hive's back, I guess. So
Here we go.
There you go.
Find me at that Alden Diaz everywhere, or don't.
There you go. So it's almost dangerous to do, but I have to ask because you mentioned Fire and Ice.
Yeah.
What?
What is that? Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones.
Okay.
I just say Ice and Fire because like it's just it's the easier way for me to quickly say
all of it
instead of saying Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon and sometimes other stuff, because the books that Game of Thrones comes from are called A Song of Ice and Fire, but the entire world's catch-all term is also Ice and Fire.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got you. I didn't know that. My millennial ass thought you were talking about Mega Bloks Fire and Ice figures.
No. Although if there is a channel for that out there, I'm sure that they would love to have you.
It's right here.
I will be their one. I will be their one viewer.
Yeah. It's a weird thing because like HBO made the decision to call the whole thing Game of Thrones, but in the book series, that's only the name of the first one.
Yes.
Interesting.
So it's a weird thing, but yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I digress. Kev. When is the live imminent return of the boys?
January. Sometime in January. I'll be moving from my boudoir here into an actual space to
Snoke's boudoir.
Yeah. January. We'll be back in January.
Oh, good. Can we expect this lovely Christmas tree to remain for that epic journey?
That depends entirely on how lazy I intend on being.
Really brings the room together. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's glorious.
Yeah.
I told you.
I think it's hilarious that I'm an atheist with a Christmas tree.
I was going to say
It's a pagan Christmas.
I don't even
tree.
like Christmas, and I can admire that.
We like colors and lights, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
simple creatures.
This is literally the only reason I stick with Christmas is because I enjoyed it as a kid, and like, you know what, healing the inner child. If you enjoyed it when you were a kid, you have permission to enjoy it when you're an adult. And if you can believe in Jesus, I can believe in Santa Claus. Leave me alone.
Exactly.
There you go. Absolutely. And so to end it out, I mean, obviously you're on, if you're listening to this, consensually or not, you're there. This is what we do. We
If you're not
invite
locked in our
people
basement.
that are more beautiful and brilliant than we are on to talk about things we love together. And that's what just happened. And we do it often. We are
As often as we can get, about once a week. Yeah.
Yeah, about once a week. We are up in the air, and by that I mean I'm up in the air on if we will have an episode next week or the week after. Well, if it'll be before Christmas or before New Year, but we will have one more episode this year, one way or the other. Kind of just a wrap up holiday special of the Nerd Herder brand, and ending out what's been a really awesome year. We've done more episodes this year than any other of our 4 years. We have stuck to this crazy thing we decided to start the new year with by going live and inviting our friends on.
It's been fun. Yeah.
I say that to say, like, it's not all Mount Doom. Like,
No.
This is the semblance of potatoes in my life. This is the thing. And so, like, going back to, if I can find it, something that Brennan mentioned earlier. Oh my gosh, where is it?
It's a lot of comments, man.
But basically, like, the fellowship that has come about in these recent times with the things we do, like, this is that. Like,
I'm genuinely surprised that you people put up with me on a daily basis.
Right.
Put up with you? Put up with
Yes.
you? No. It's the other way around. It's the other way around.
I'm
I'm
obnoxious,
surprised
Kevin.
that you're. Yeah, I'm surprised that you're still hanging out with me. Jesus.
Oh my gosh.
No.
But yeah, I mean, you guys get it because your faces are right here. But like, with absolutely everyone that's joined, that's just tuned in, that is just like put up with us. Like, you're the fellowship and friends we made along the way. And no matter what our year has been or what yours has been, I hope that much like many of the characters, but especially leading man Gandalf, you can remain hopeful and at least take that away from this or whatever joys you find here in life. I can't find the comment.
It's fine.
But
and you know what? You're not going to skate by it. I'm going to mention it because it made me full on laugh very hard when you told me about it. We went through our stats for the year.
Oh my gosh.
Guess
Take
what
your
the
victory
most
lap.
popular episode this year was, and how much joy I felt in my heart.
No, it was the beginning of the Nicolas Cage project.
It was
right?
Ghost Rider.
It was.
Yeah, of course
So
it was.
next year, we're going to be doing more Ghost Rider. Or Nicolas Cage in general, really.
Do your
Every
victory
nice
lap.
thing I just said, I rescind.
You have to live with me.
Darn you people.
I'm gonna listen. We have an agreement where I, without prompting, will just put on a movie. It might be a Nicolas Cage movie. It might not be a Nicolas Cage movie, but you can tap out at any time within the first 15 minutes.
Oh no. I never will, because it's you and you love it. And
It's you.
yeah, that's roulette.
Watch
in our
Willy's
house.
Wonderland.
So yes, lots of cool things coming. I didn't mean to necessarily get ahead of the end of year feels and whatnot, but there you go. It's been a heck of a journey, but alas, the boat has come to shore, and it is time to sail away. Come, sail away. And so, thank you to our lovely guests for joining. Thank you.
Enya.
I did. And in the meantime, stay hobbity.
Wait a minute. You know, this is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.